Hi there. I believe that total transformation is possible. And I want to share with you today a framework that has really helped me to transform and some of my favorite ways to change my state, change my story, and create a new way of being. Hi, I'm Jen. I'm a holistic nurse and a consciousness explorer, and I'm here to help you heal yourself, shift your consciousness, and become more of who you really are. So I was inspired to share this today because I have a friend visiting, and she was sharing with me about this pattern that she has of getting into relationships with men that aren't a good match for her. And she told me this story with all these reasons why this keeps happening and what it's from. She thinks she understands the root of it. And at one point she said, well, I guess maybe we just keep having these patterns and then we see them from new perspectives, but maybe they're just like this pattern that we're always going to have. And when she said that, I got this very clear sense of like, no, actually, I believe in total transformation. I believe that it is totally possible to clear old patterns, to create new ways of being, and to be able to like interrupt those repeating themes in our lives. I know for myself, I've had these experiences where I feel like, oh, that's just how I am. I'm always going to be that way. But as I've done my inner work and as I've kept moving on this path of transformation, I have had the experience that, like, wow, I'm actually changing. And I feel excited about this because I I like the feeling of that faith of I don't know exactly how it's possible, but I believe with all my heart that I can transform my life. Like that right there is an empowering belief that is going to help me out. And she had to think about this. She was like, do I believe that? I mean, I'd like to believe that. I think I want to try that on. And in terms of beliefs, I feel like we can do that. We can kind of play around with new beliefs and try on new beliefs. And I see it almost like a garden. We have these beliefs that we were given by our family, these beliefs that we were given by our school system, by the media, like whatever. And we took them on as like, oh, that's just how the world works. That's just how it is. Or maybe things are more unconscious. They're not like, it's not obvious what the belief is, but there are certain patterns energetically that are creating our lives that are either helping us or are not helping us. And we can become aware of those things. But I think of it like a garden, and we can pull the weeds out. We can pull the weeds out of the garden, and sometimes the weeds will just keep coming back. And the way I see it is it takes work. This is the inner work of like pulling out the weeds and replacing it with something that is actually going to create a beautiful life. So, one of my favorite ways, one of these frameworks that I really love is I actually learned this from Tony Robbins. And if you have been on planet Earth for the last 40 years, you might have heard this guy's name, if not taken one of his classes. But I learned this process from him that has been really helpful for me. And it is this framework called state, story, strategy. And I'll explain more in a minute. But what that means is, and what he says is, most people, when they want to change their lives, when they want to transform, when they want to do something new, they try to create a strategy. They think, what are the steps that I need to take? What are the things that I need to do in order to change? But the trick is, we actually need to reverse it. We can't start with the strategy. And I know that place where I'm just kind of like sitting at the desk or in a chair or whatever. Usually I'm kind of like frozen, sitting, thinking about like what to do. And then my brain gets a bit overwhelmed. But what he says, and what I have found to be true in my life now, even after I learned this, I looked back, oh yeah, that's always felt true for me, is to change the state first. So when we change the state, it changes the story, and then a new strategy arises. And what does that mean? I like to think of it like And even in like neurobiology, neurochemistry, psychoneuroimmunology, these scientists, these people have come to understand that our emotional states are like different little chemicals. Of course, it's way more complex than we're just a bunch of little chemicals walking around, but our physiology truly is in relationship with our mind, with our brain, with our body. It's all connected. And when we change our state, it literally changes our brain chemistry, it changes our mind, and we can open up to new possibilities. So state I think of as like state of being. So I can be in a state of being peaceful. I can be in a state of being anxious. I can be in a state of being like enthusiastic or strong or empowered or depressed. And each of these states, like even as I say them now, like I have different ways that my body wants to move. So in these Tony Robbins workshops, or I took his Unleash the Power Within program, he has you make a power move. So like make your move, these power moves. I should be standing up for this. There's also a lot of jumping around, like shifting the nervous system. And I believe that changing the physiology is the fastest way to transform, to change our state. So get up, jump around, move around, go for a walk. I had a situation a month or two ago when I started making videos. I sat down to make my first video and I was like, I can't do this. And my mind goes blank the second I hit record. And I tried a few times that day and I just couldn't do it. And that night I was sitting at the table and I'm like, oh man, to my husband, like, I just really don't think I can do this. And I felt myself be frozen in that space. In the somatic healing world and in the nervous system understanding world, there's a state called freeze. And this is a survival state in nature. There's fight, there's flight, there's freeze, there's fawning. But the freeze state, everything kind of shuts down, and it's because of overwhelm usually. So my husband looked at me and he said, go for a walk. And I was like, and I felt so frozen there, like, I just don't know, I can't do it. And he said, go for a walk. So I was like, okay. So I put on my shoes, I went for a walk, and within 5 minutes of my walk, this beautiful piece of wisdom came through. And it was the exact thing that I needed to hear, to understand in order to like get the confidence to keep moving forward. And the second part of this process of state, story, and strategy is story. So we all have these stories playing, and it could go with that state. Like, what does an empowered state look like? And usually an empowered story goes along with it. Maybe it's a chemistry thing, maybe it's an energetic thing, but they go together. What fires together wires together, they say in this like neurochemistry transformation world. Dr. Joe Dispenza, who's a real rock star in this world of brain transformation, life transformation. He says this a lot. What fires together, wires together. So as I changed my state, as I was walking, the new story came like, okay, I can do this. And so there's an invitation there to change the state, and the story often naturally changes, but at least the doorway is open to kind of coax a new story through. A new story that's more empowering, a new story of like your compelling future, a new story of the possibility of something new, the new story of that inner confidence, like I can do this. And for me, there's even an element of believing in total transformation. There's a faith there. I don't know for sure how everything works. Life is very complex. If we start looking at things on the quantum level, the energetic level, we start to understand that there are universal laws at play. You know, people talk a lot about the law of attraction, but what that basically means, the foundation of it, is the energy that we are carrying, the energy that we are vibrating, and we are energetic beings. Even Albert Einstein says this. The energy that we carry, the energy that we are vibrating, actually like puts these messages out into the universe, out into the creative field, the morphogenic field, the, what do they call that? The anyway, we're all living in this field of energy, and as we carry certain frequencies, we're going to receive the energetic match for that frequency. Now, Tony Robbins isn't speaking in terms of quantum language like this. This is just another layer of how I understand things. But when we change our state, we change our vibration, we change our brain chemistry, we change what fires together, wires together, a new story can arise. And this new empowered way of being essentially invites new possibilities, new connections, new there's like a magic to it too, you know? There's a magic to it because a lot of people have had the experience when they change their state, they change their story, they do their inner work, things start happening in the external world that they hadn't planned. This friend of mine, actually this morning, she acknowledged that, like, well, actually, yeah, I was doing this inner work the other day. I was on a camping trip. I was going for walks. I was really like navigating these parts of myself that were challenging. And I felt more empowered. And when I came out of the woods from this camping trip, I had had 3 new people call me for sessions. I had people sign up for this retreat I was running. And so she had the experience of shifting her inner world and the outer world reflecting that. So in this framework of state, change your story, it kind of can naturally happen when you change your state, but you can also like create a new story from that place, a story of your compelling future, of that total transformation. What does that look like? What does that feel like when you are living the life of your dreams? Giving yourself permission to really go there, to feel that. And then the strategy arises. It's like this idea of, if you ever saw like Indiana Jones movies where he has to cross from like, you know, one rocky ledge to another and there's no bridge in between, but somewhere along the way told him that if he stepped, that there would be something that would show up. I think what he did is he took little like grains of sand and he threw them out there and could like see the bridge. But it's this idea, like if we take a step, the next step will show itself. I have this experience when I'm driving at night and it's pitch black and you can only see like 20 feet in front of you where the headlights of the car are shining, but you can't see beyond that. But there's a faith, there's a trust that the road is there. So as you drive down the road and you see the 20 feet ahead of you, you know how to stay in the lines. And then as you go, then the road just keeps showing itself. And I like to believe that this is the strategy piece. The strategy will come. The strategy will show itself as you start taking steps in that new state, with that new story, with that new energy, with that new vision of your compelling future, and life will meet you there. So I believe in total transformation. I believe that we can pull the weeds of these old stories that have been taking us around on these merry-go-rounds of the patterns. I believe that even these core issues that we have, I believe on a soul level that we come here with certain things to learn. And there are certain core lessons that each and every one of us have to learn. But I don't believe that we need to be victim to them. I think that having tools like this and having frameworks like state, story, strategy, or doing the things that inspire us to change our state, like for me, movement, dancing, music, that's a huge one for me. I like yoga, but I like movement and dancing more. I love going for walks in nature. I love having inspiring conversations with people. That almost always changes my state, to be in service, to help someone. Being by water, by a river, by a waterfall, prayer, meditation, ritual. When we move into a place of prayer or ritual, we're moving from like ordinary conscious, ordinary state of mind into non-ordinary states of being. Again, going to this science, science is only like a fraction of the puzzle. It's a great mystery, but the science shows that we have multiple brainwave states. We have the beta brainwave state, which is like awake, alert. I'm in beta right now. And then there's this alpha theta zone. And the alpha theta zone is more of like a meditative, dreamy kind of state. I think flow state, they've determined that flow state is more of like a theta state. I'd have to research that to know for sure. But then there's delta sleeping, and there are other brainwave states too. The point being, we can do things like ritual, like meditation, like ceremony, like prayer to shift out of the ordinary beta brainwave states, the ordinary tracks that we've been going down, into a more vast, a different, a more open, a more connected way of being that allows us to have new thoughts, new inspirations. So I invite you to find those things in your life that help you to transform, that help you to shift your state, that help you to feel confident in your ability to create a beautiful life for yourself. And it starts inside. It all is internal. And when we change the way that we feel inside, we do these practices to forgive, to let go, so that we don't have to carry those emotional patterns, those energetic frameworks, those imprints, those echoes that have come from our past. We can let them go and move forward into a new way of being, a new way of living, a new way of seeing our lives and the possibilities. I like this phrase of a compelling future, to tell the story of a compelling future. And it's that vision, that feeling, that understanding of my compelling future that inspires me, that gets me moving. So I can also rely on that story now that I've been telling myself, this empowering, compelling future story that also inspires me to be changing my state every day through movement, through ritual, through the things that bring me joy, that help open my heart. Rituals that help me say thank you, because they say thank you is the highest vibration. Saying thank you to the water, saying thank you to the beautiful experiences in my life, for the family that I have, for my daughter, saying thank you every day and like really feeling it. That changes my state big time. I think Eckhart Tolle once said, if the only prayer you ever said was thank you, that is enough. So I'll leave you with that today. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being curious about these concepts, about how to transform your life and about how to create a more beautiful life for yourself and the people around you. Because as you change, that also changes how the world responds to you and perceives you. And I look forward to hearing stories from you about your favorite ways. What are your favorite ways to change your state? How do you create a new compelling story for your life? If you want some free stuff, you can go to my website, Guided Meditations. A quantum timeline meditation is a great way to get in touch with that future compelling story version of you. And yeah, click the link to subscribe to this channel if you're interested in more ways to heal yourself, expand your consciousness, and become more of who you really are.